For more than 100 years, fingerprints have been like the gold standard in forensics, right? The one piece of evidence that seems absolutely undeniable, connecting a suspect to a crime. But what if that foundation isn't quite as solid as we've all been led to believe? Just how reliable is this iconic clue, really?
Okay, so to really get into this, we need to go back in time. Picture this. It's Paris, October 1902. Detectives get a call and they show up to a crime scene that is just complete chaos. It looks absolutely hopeless.
The victim's name is Joseph Reibel. He's been murdered and his workplace is completely torn apart. We're talking overturned furniture, papers everywhere. It almost looks like someone did this on purpose, just to make sure there were no clues left behind.
And the police? Well, they're at a total dead end. There are no witnesses, zero leads. This case is looking like it's gonna go cold fast.
But then, they find something. Buried in all that mess, an officer spots a single bloody fingerprint on a piece of broken glass. I mean, it's not much, it's tiny, it's only a partial print, but at this point, it's literally the only hope they've got.
And this one case, this one little print from 1902 is what's going to launch fingerprinting into the legend it is today in the world of criminal justice.
And check out how they did it. This wasn't some quick computer scan like we have today. Nope, an inspector had to physically, manually, dig through huge archives of fingerprint cards. And you know what? He found a match. A guy named Henri Leon Scheffer, who was already on their radar as a thief. They bring him in, show him the evidence, and bam, he confesses. This was huge. It was the very first time in Europe that a murder was solved with just a fingerprint. The legend was officially born.
So what is it about these little swirls on our fingers that makes them so powerful? Let's dive into the science behind it all.
What we call fingerprints are technically called friction ridges. And they're not just on your fingers, they're all over your palms and the soles of your feet too. And they're there for a pretty cool reason, evolutionarily speaking. They give us a better grip, especially on wet things, and they actually make our sense of touch more sensitive.
The way they actually form is pretty wild, and it all happens before we're even born. So around the 10th week in the womb, the inner layer of our skin starts growing faster than the outer layer. All that pressure has to go somewhere, right? So the skin just buckles and folds on itself, creating these unbelievably complex and totally unique patterns.
And this is the absolute key. How your fingerprints form is a mix of your DNA and just pure random chaos in the womb. That randomness is everything. It's why every single fingerprint is one of a kind. I mean, it's so unique that even identical twins who have the exact same DNA have completely different fingerprints. Think about that for a second. Okay, so we've got the why down. We know why they're unique. Now let's talk about the how. How do investigators actually find these little clues, especially when they're often totally invisible? Basically, investigators are on the lookout for two different kinds of prints. First, you've got your visible prints. These are the obvious ones, left in something like blood or paint or dirt, kind of like the one from that murder in Paris. But honestly, most of the prints they find are latent prints. And these are the tricky ones because they're totally invisible. They're just made from the sweat and oil that's naturally on our skin.
So how in the world do you see something that's invisible? Well, it comes down to some really clever chemistry. You've probably seen this on TV. They use superfine powders that cling to the oils in the print. Or they can use special chemicals that have a reaction with the proteins in our sweat, which makes the print show up. And get this, there's even some cutting-edge tech now that can pull a print off a metal surface, like a bullet casing, even if someone tried to wipe it clean. How cool is that?
All right, so once they've got a print, the real work begins. First step, a computer system churns through a massive database and spits out a list of potential matches. But that's just the start. After that, a human expert has to step in and do a super detailed comparison, looking at all the tiny features. And here's the most important part. If they think they have a match, a second expert has to check their work completely independently to make sure it's right. It's a really thorough process, all designed to make sure they don't make a mistake.
But with all that science and all those steps and checks, you have to wonder, is the whole system really foolproof?
Now let's be super clear about one thing. The fact that your fingerprint is biologically unique, that's not up for debate. It's an amazingly powerful tool for law enforcement.
But, and this is really the heart of the matter, just because the print itself is unique, does that automatically mean the system we use to analyze it is perfect?
Well, it turns out the answer is no. There was a big study back in 2011 that found even highly trained experts made false matches, meaning they matched two prints from different people about 0.1% of the time. Now, I know what you're thinking. 0.1% sounds tiny, right? Almost nothing. But think about the sheer number of cases that rely on this. That tiny percentage could actually translate to thousands of people whose lives are completely turned upside down by a single mistake.
And this really brings us to where we are today with fingerprint evidence. The takeaway is simple. It's powerful, for sure, but it is not perfect.
Here's the thing. In the real world, prints found at a crime scene are almost never clean and perfect. They're smudged, they're partial, sometimes they're overlapping. We also know that humans make mistakes, even the experts. And maybe the most surprising thing of all, there's no single, universal rule for how many points on a fingerprint have to match before an expert can say, yep, that's a positive ID.
So, because of all this, you're seeing a real shift in the forensic community. The general thinking now is that no one should ever be convicted based only on a fingerprint. It's a huge piece of the puzzle, no doubt, but it shouldn't be the whole puzzle.
But don't get me wrong, from that murder case in Paris all the way back in 1902 to the high-tech crime labs we have today, fingerprinting is still an absolutely invaluable tool, and the science behind it is getting better and more accurate all the time. Its role in bringing criminals to justice is just undeniable.
Which kind of leaves us with a really big question, doesn't it? We know the science is incredibly powerful. We also know it's not 100% perfect. So we're left to ask ourselves, when someone's life and their freedom are hanging in the balance, is being almost certain really certain enough?